Listeners, picture a small, fog-covered town in the 1950s, where a traveling carnival arrives every spring. But this year, the centerpiece, the Grand Carousel, seems to hold secrets of its own. Detective Leonard Hayes is called to investigate a mysterious disappearance that the townsfolk whisper about but dare not fully name. Detective Leonard Hayes adjusted his fedora against the drizzle, stepping onto the slick cobblestones of Greystone's town square. The carnival had arrived late that night, bringing flickering lights, the smell of popcorn and caramel, and the faint creak of horse-shaped carriages on the Grand Carousel. Hayes' instructions had been simple: investigate a disappearance. But the town's whispers suggested there was more at play. The missing person, a young boy named Tommy Miller, had been last seen riding the carousel just before the town clock struck midnight. Now, only a faint echo of music lingered in the mist, accompanied by the distant scent of cotton candy and hay. Nin Hayes moved toward the carousel, noting the intricate craftsmanship of the painted horses and chariots. The brass poles glinted under the carnival lights, and the wooden floorboards were polished to a dull shine from countless years of use. Yet something felt off. The horses' eyes seemed to gleam unnaturally in the lamplight, and the music box, though silent, seemed to hum faintly as if aware of his presence. "An evening, detective," said a carnival worker, stepping from behind a striped tent. He was tall and wiry, dressed in a faded vest and bow tie. "Name's Harold. Been looking for you. You're here about the boy, eh?" And Hayes nodded, tipping his hat. "That's right. When was he last seen?" And Harold swallowed, glancing nervously at the carousel. "Last ride. Just before the hour. We heard his laughter, then nothing. No one saw him leave the ride. And when we checked, the carriage he was in, it was empty. Whole thing's got folks spooked." Knelt, examining the floorboards around the carousel. The polished wood bore subtle scratches and scuff marks, leading toward one corner, but the marks ended abruptly. It was as though the boy had vanished into thin air. "Did anyone else ride the carousel that night?" Hayes asked, and just a few kids. Harold replied, voice dropping. "But everyone says it wasn't right. Some swear the carousel moves on its own after dark, spinning faster, lights flickering. They call it the midnight ride." And Hayes straightened, feeling a shiver despite the damp evening. The town had its superstitions, but there was a kernel of truth buried in every legend. This wasn't just a missing child. Something unusual was happening here, something that had evaded explanation for years. NNHE rose and circled the carousel, flashlight cutting through the mist. The intricate paintings of mythic creatures and smiling faces seemed almost alive, reflections of the town's history embedded in their curves. Hayes, detective instincts tingled. The carousel itself was a clue, and the story of Tommy Miller's disappearance might be entwined with secrets older than the town itself. As Hayes approached the operator's booth, he noticed a faint, shadowy figure on the edge of the carousel platform, a child-sized silhouette with glowing eyes. Before he could call out, it vanished. Detective Hayes meets the carnival's operator, a man with secrets of his own. The story of the Midnight Carousel begins to unfold, but the truth is stranger than the town could imagine. Detective Leonard Hayes approached the operator's booth, the wooden planks damp under his polished shoes. Inside, a man with a gaunt face and sharp eyes looked up from a ledger, the flickering lamp casting shadows across his features. He wore a faded top hat tilted slightly to one side, a red scarf draped around his neck. "You must be Detective Hayes," the man said in a low, measured voice. "I'm Conrad Vance, operator of this fine carousel and keeper of its stories." Hayes nodded, tipping his hat. "Mr. Vance, I'm here about the missing boy, Tommy Miller. I need to know everything you saw that night." Vance's eyes darkened, as though recalling a memory he had long tried to suppress. "Ah, Tommy. Bright little fellow. Full of laughter and curiosity. Rode the midnight ride when the clock struck 12 and vanished. Some say it was the magic of the carousel. Others say it's something older." Hayes leaned against the booth, his voice steady. "Magic? Something older? Mr. Vance, I need facts, not superstition." Vance chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Facts are tricky with the Midnight Carousel, detective. This carousel has been in our family for generations. Painted horses, gilded poles, each one carries a memory. A memory of the town, of the children who've ridden, of the secrets people have whispered in the night. But when the clock strikes midnight, it becomes different. Alive, in ways I cannot explain. And Hayes frowned. Different how? The ride spins faster, the lights flicker in patterns not meant by man. And sometimes people don't come off. Not immediately, anyway. Sometimes days pass, sometimes weeks, and only those with courage and care can discover the path to return. Hayes took careful notes, though skepticism lingered. Have you ever recovered someone yourself? Vance's expression grew somber. I have returned a few over the years, but not every rider. Some remain in between, I suppose. The Carousel has its own rules, and it chooses who it allows to reveal its secrets. The others, well, they become part of its story. And Hayes' mind raced. A carnival ride that could trap children? That seemed impossible. Yet the traces he had seen, the empty carriage, the faint scratches, the shadow that vanished, all suggested something unusual indeed. Vance leaned closer, lowering his voice. Detective, the Carousel is more than wood and paint. Each horse, each chariot, it carries a secret. The boy's disappearance is not random. The Carousel has a memory, and it tests those who seek answers. Only someone clever, patient, and brave can uncover its mysteries without becoming lost themselves. Hayes nodded slowly, realizing the gravity of the situation. This was not merely a missing child case. It was a puzzle, woven into the very fabric of a centuries-old carnival tradition. Every whisper, every shadow, every spin of the Carousel held meaning. Vance handed Hayes a small brass medallion etched with a horse and moon. Take this, detective. It is a key of sorts. Use it wisely. The Carousel waits for you, and it knows when you are ready. But beware, some rides do not welcome strangers. As Hayes pocketed the medallion, a faint Carousel melody began to play, though no music box had been wound. Outside, the mist thickened, and a silhouette appeared atop one of the painted horses. Unmistakably, the missing boy, Tommy Miller, looking straight at Hayes before vanishing once again into the fog. NNTHE Midnight Carousel had begun its test, and Detective Hayes was now part of the ride. Detective Hayes prepares to ride the Midnight Carousel himself. Each rotation promises clues and risks. The mystery deepens as the Carousel reveals its strange, otherworldly nature. Undetective Leonard Hayes stood before the Carousel, the brass poles glinting under the carnival lights. The fog had thickened, curling around the horses, painted hooves, and the soft scent of popcorn lingered in the air. He held the brass medallion Conrad Vance had given him, its surface etched with a horse beneath a crescent moon. It felt warm in his palm, almost alive, pulsing faintly with some unseen energy. And Hayes turned to Vance. "I'm ready," he said quietly. "Show me what the boy saw. Show me the ride." Vance nodded solemnly. "Once you mount the Carousel, there's no turning back. The midnight ride tests more than courage. It tests understanding, the ability to see beyond the ordinary. The medallion will guide you, but it cannot protect you from the Carousel itself." Hayes climbed onto one of the painted horses, the wood smooth under his hands. He fastened his grip on the reins and felt the slight vibration beneath him, as if the horse was aware of his presence. Around him, the other horses swayed gently in rhythm with the wind. With a sudden jolt, the Carousel began to spin. Slowly at first, then faster. The lights above flickered in sync with the brass music box that had somehow wound itself. Hayes felt the world blur. The carnival, the fog, even the distant town square seemed to dissolve as the Carousel carried him into a strange, suspended realm. Through the haze, he saw flashes of children who had ridden before, some laughing, some fearful, all somehow preserved within the ride's memory. One child, he realized with a start, was Tommy Miller, spinning gently atop a painted horse that mirrored the one he rode. Tommy's eyes met Hayes, wide with both surprise and relief. Hayes held up the medallion. It began to glow softly, illuminating a path across the spinning platform. The horses' eyes reflected the light, creating a series of symbols on the floorboards. A pattern, a code. Hayes recognized the shapes from Conrad Vance's ledger. Letters, numbers, and tiny pictograms that represented the carousel's history and its hidden truths. An etched ride twisted and swirled. Yet Hayes focused on the medallion and the symbols. He realized the carousel was not merely a ride. It was a puzzle, a labyrinth of memory and intention. Each rotation revealed a different layer of the town's past, the family that had built the ride, and the reason the boy had vanished. Suddenly, a shadow loomed beneath him, darker than the swirling fog. Hayes' grip tightened on the reins. The carousel's horses seemed to bend toward him, guiding him in a particular direction. The music box stuttered and then played a haunting melody, almost like a voice whispering clues. And as the carousel's speed increased, Hayes noticed an opening in the fog, a small, hidden door at the edge of the ride, glowing faintly. Tommy Miller was moving toward it, beckoning Hayes to follow. Hayes' heart pounded. Was this the way out? Or another test from the midnight carousel itself? NHE gripped the medallion tighter, ready to take the next step into the unknown. Detective Hayes steps through a mysterious door revealed by the midnight carousel. Beyond it lies a world of hidden memories, strange clues, and the true mystery behind the boy's disappearance. Leonard Hayes' heart raced as the carousel slowed, the brass horses swaying gently as if bowing to the next phase of the journey. The fog doorway glimmered faintly, almost inviting him in. Tommy Miller's small hand reached toward him, disappearing into the glowing opening. Hayes hesitated for a heartbeat. Then, gathering his courage, he stepped through. NNTHE world shifted. The mist and the carnival lights vanished, replaced by a dimly lit corridor lined with mirrors. Each mirror reflected not only his own image, but fleeting glimpses of the past. Children laughing on the carousel, townsfolk watching with awe, and shadows that moved independently of their sources. Hayes realized these mirrors were more than glass. They were windows into memory, preserving moments connected to the ride. NNHE followed Tommy's small figure, who moved steadily down the corridor. Hayes' footsteps echoed unnaturally, but the boy seemed to glide effortlessly, unaffected by the weight of the air or the reflective walls. Occasionally, a mirror would shimmer, revealing a hidden symbol. A horse beneath a crescent moon, the same symbol etched on the medallion Hayes carried. NNTHE medallion pulsed faintly in his pocket. Hayes held it up, watching as the light extended toward the mirrors, highlighting a sequence of doors. Each door appeared ordinary, but its engravings hinted at the layers of the carousel's story. One door in particular glowed warmly, drawing Hayes and Tommy toward it. "And then this way, detective," whispered a voice, soft and childlike, echoing from within the chamber beyond the door. Tommy's small hand beckoned him forward, and Hayes took a deep breath, stepping through. NNTHE room on the other side was astonishing. It was circular, lined with carved panels depicting the history of the carnival, the families who built it, and the countless children who had ridden the midnight carousel over generations. In the center stood a small wooden podium with an open book, its pages blank but glowing faintly. Hayes could feel the weight of countless memories pressed into the air. NHE turned to Tommy. This is where it all begins, isn't it?" The boy nodded solemnly. Hayes understood then that the carousel was more than a ride. It was a repository of memory, a guardian of history, and a test of courage. The child's disappearance was never random. The ride chose those who could navigate its mysteries, those capable of understanding the lessons woven into its spinning heart. Suddenly, the floor beneath the podium shifted slightly, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a series of journals, photographs, and a music box, similar to the one powering the carousel. Hayes opened one journal, its pages filled with precise notes, records of past disappearances, attempts to decipher the carousel's secrets, and warnings to anyone daring enough to follow the midnight ride. Leonard Hayes scanned the journal. A chill swept the room. The mirrors along the walls shimmered violently, and from the shadows emerged a figure, a tall man in a dark coat, eyes glinting with a mixture of anger and curiosity. "You shouldn't have come here," the man said, voice low and commanding. "The midnight carousel doesn't forgive trespassers. Now, detective, you may never leave the way you came." And Hayes' pulse quickened. The door he had followed through was no longer visible, and the carousel's mysteries were closing in around him. The real test of courage had begun. Detective Hayes faces the mysterious figure in the hidden chamber. The Midnight Carousel's secrets are about to be unveiled, and the true reason behind Tommy Miller's disappearance begins to emerge. Detective Leonard Hayes squared his shoulders as the tall man stepped fully into the dimly lit chamber. His coat was dark, almost blending with the shadows, and his eyes glinted with a sharp intelligence. "Who are you?" Hayes demanded, voice firm. "What do you want with the carousel and the boy?" NNTHE man tilted his head, almost amused. "I am called many things," he said slowly. "Some call me the keeper of the ride. My family has tended this carousel for generations, ensuring that only those worthy can discover its truth. Tommy Miller, he is part of that truth, and so now are you." In Hayes' pulse quickened. "Part of the truth? He vanished, and I've come to bring him back." NTHE keeper's gaze softened slightly. "No one is truly lost here, detective. The carousel preserves those it chooses. Children, adults, those with curiosity, courage, or insight. It does not harm, it tests and guides. Tommy's disappearance is a rite, a journey into understanding the carousel's lessons." Hayes glanced at the glowing book on the podium, then back at the boy. Tommy's eyes were wide, filled with wonder rather than fear. Hayes realized the child understood more than he had at first believed. An NTHE keeper motioned toward the mirrors lining the chamber. "Look closely, detective. These reflect not only the past but also intentions, choices, and courage. Each rider's journey is unique, shaped by what they bring to the ride. The carousel remembers, and it will reveal its secrets to those who respect its rules." Hayes stepped closer, peering into the mirrored surfaces. He saw fleeting images of the town, the carnival arriving year after year, and children laughing on the carousel. He noticed symbols etched faintly in the reflections, the same crescent horse he had seen on the medallion. "The carousel is alive," Hayes murmured. "It interacts with its riders?" "Yes," the keeper said. "It tests loyalty, honesty, and courage. Those who succeed gain insight into its mysteries. Those who fail remain part of its memory, lessons for future riders. The boy's disappearance was not an accident. He has been chosen, and now you are part of his path." Hayes felt the weight of the moment. He had investigated strange cases before, but nothing like this. The carousel was not just a ride. It was a living puzzle, a guardian of the town's hidden stories, and a teacher to those brave enough to seek the truth. Tommy tugged at Hayes' hand, guiding him toward a small alcove at the edge of the chamber. Within it, miniature models of the carousel's horses and chariots glimmered, each representing a past rider and their journey. Hayes noticed one particular figure, a boy much like Tommy, frozen mid-ride, his face serene, almost knowing. An NTHE keeper stepped forward, voice low but urgent. "Detective Hayes, to understand the carousel fully, you must take the next ride yourself. Only then will the path to Tommy's return and the full story of the Midnight Carousel be revealed. Are you ready to step into the ride's heart?" Hayes' hand tightened on the medallion. The next step would decide not only the boy's fate, but his own. The Midnight Carousel was calling, and he had no choice but to answer. Detective Hayes prepares for the midnight ride that will reveal the carousel's deepest secrets. The path ahead is mysterious, testing courage, insight, and understanding in ways he could never anticipate. And Detective Leonard Hayes climbed onto a golden horse at the center of the carousel. Its paint shimmered under the dim, otherworldly glow of the chamber, and the medallion in his pocket pulsed as if aware of the moment. Tommy Miller was already ahead, perched atop a smaller horse, looking back to encourage him forward. Conrad Vance's words and the keeper's warnings echoed in Hayes' mind. The carousel tests intention, courage, and insight. One misstep could leave him trapped in its labyrinth of memory, forever a part of the ride's endless story. With a faint click, the carousel began to turn. Slowly at first, then faster, the painted horses came to life in a rhythm that seemed almost alive. The music box played a melody both familiar and haunting, weaving the past and present together in harmony. Hayes gripped the reins tightly, feeling the subtle vibrations beneath him. vibrations that seemed to guide him toward hidden truths. NTHE mirrors along the chamber walls shimmered violently, reflecting not just the ride, but visions of past riders. Each face held a story: joy, fear, discovery. Hayes realized that the carousel remembered every child who had dared the midnight ride, storing their lessons and emotions like layers of a living history. And as the carousel spun faster, symbols appeared on the floorboards, glowing faintly like the medallion in his hand. Hayes studied them carefully. Letters, numbers, pictograms, each a clue to the carousel's design and purpose. He understood that the ride was a puzzle built to protect, teach, and reveal, rewarding those capable of observing closely and interpreting wisely. Not in ahead, Tommy pointed toward a central column of the carousel, where the brass poles converged and seemed to twist upward into a spiral of light. Hayes realized this was the heart of the ride, the source of the carousel's strange power. The music swelled, notes dancing in harmony with the turning horses, guiding him forward. And Hayes took a deep breath, focusing on the medallion. It glowed brighter, illuminating a pathway along the spinning platform. Symbols aligned, forming a sequence that unlocked a hidden compartment within the column. Inside lay a journal, its pages filled with careful records: the origin of the carousel, the families who built it, and the magic or power that gave it life. Tommy climbed down from his horse and handed Hayes a small carved key. "This will help you unlock the next part," the boy said quietly. "The ride wants you to understand, Detective. It will show you the way." NTHE carousel slowed, and the heart of the ride opened like a small chamber within the central column. Hayes stepped forward, placing the journal and medallion inside a carved niche. Light poured upward, illuminating the chamber, and a warm sensation spread through his chest. He realized the carousel's power was not sinister. It was a test, a guide, a teacher for those who sought truth responsibly. As the chamber's glow faded, Hayes noticed movement at the edge of his vision, a shadowy figure, tall and silent, observing him from the outer edge of the carousel. The figure vanished before he could approach. The midnight ride had revealed much, but one mystery remained: who else was watching, and what were their intentions? Detective Hayes faces the midnight carousel's ultimate test. The ride will reveal not only the boy's fate, but also the final truths about the carousel, its origins, and its watchers. Detective Leonard Hayes gripped the reins tightly as the carousel slowed to a deliberate, rhythmic pace. The spinning platform felt alive beneath him, each vibration echoing through his body. Tommy Miller was beside him, calm now, a faint smile on his face. Hayes realized the boy understood the ride far better than he did, or perhaps the carousel had chosen Tommy long before Hayes arrived. In ahead, the central column, the heart of the ride, glowed softly. Symbols still pulsed faintly along the floorboards, forming a clear sequence. Hayes recognized it as a path to the carousel's ultimate secret, the way to safely guide those lost in its labyrinth back to reality. NHE followed the glowing symbols, riding carefully, every horse beneath him responding as if alive, adjusting subtly to keep him on the correct course. Each rotation seemed to bend time, blending memory and present into one fluid moment. Hayes felt as if he were seeing the town, the carnival, and the riders of generations all at once. And suddenly, the shadowy figure he had glimpsed before appeared again, this time standing atop one of the carousel's taller horses. The figure raised a hand, and the entire platform shuddered slightly. Hayes steadied himself. "Who are you?" he shouted over the soft hum of the music box. NNTHE figure tilted its head, voice echoing through the chamber. "I am the Watcher," it said. "I oversee those who seek the carousel's truths. You have come far, Detective, but the final step is the hardest. Will you face the ride's heart willingly, or will it choose for you?" And Hayes swallowed hard. He glanced at Tommy, who nodded encouragingly. "I'm ready," Hayes said firmly. "I will see this through, for the boy, for the town, and for the truth." NNTHE Watcher inclined its head, and the carousel began a final measured spin. The platform rose slightly, the horses, movements more fluid and precise, as if orchestrated by some invisible hand. Hayes followed the glowing symbols toward the central column, where a small compartment now opened fully. Inside lay a carved wooden box, sealed with a lock shaped like a crescent horse, identical to the medallion he carried. NNHE inserted the medallion into the lock, and the box clicked open. Inside, he found a small mirror and a single note written in delicate, flowing script NN. To those who seek the truth, the Midnight Carousel remembers all who ride with courage and respect. Those who vanish are never lost. They are preserved within memory, awaiting those who understand. Guide them wisely, and the town's story will endure. Hayes understood immediately. The carousel's magic was protective, not malevolent. Tommy's disappearance had been a test, a way to teach patience, bravery, and respect for history. The boy had never been in danger. He had been learning. As Hayes turned to leave, the watcher stepped forward, voice low but firm. "You've done well, detective. But remember, some stories remain in the shadows. Others watch, waiting. The carousel never truly sleeps." Hayes nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over him. The Midnight Carousel had revealed its heart, its lessons, and its secrets, but its watchers remained, a reminder that some mysteries endure beyond even the bravest detective's reach. Detective Hayes must guide Tommy back from the carousel's mystical realm. The lessons of courage, patience, and understanding will be tested as the boy is returned safely, but the ride's mysteries are not yet fully resolved. Detective Leonard Hayes led Tommy Miller toward the edge of the carousel, the platform slowing to a gentle rhythm. The medallion glowed softly in Hayes' hand, its warmth steady and reassuring. He understood now. The carousel was not dangerous, but a living guide, a test of character and insight. And Tommy looked up at him, small hands gripping the reins. "Detective Hayes, am I really going to leave?" "Yes, Tommy," Hayes said gently. "You've learned the ride's lessons. You've been brave, and you've understood what it wanted to show you. Now it's time to go home." NNTHE glowing symbols on the floorboards aligned again, forming a clear path toward the outer edge of the platform. Hayes guided Tommy along it, horse by horse, watching as the mist swirled and the chamber lights dimmed in harmony with the slowing music. The carousel seemed to breathe, alive with the satisfaction of a lesson completed. And as they neared the exit, the shadowy watcher appeared once more, standing silently on a higher horse. Hayes bowed slightly in acknowledgement. "Thank you," he said. "I understand now. The carousel preserves, it teaches, and it protects. Tommy's return is proof enough." NTHE watcher inclined its head and faded back into the shadows, leaving the two riders in calm silence. Hayes and Tommy reached the outer edge, where the fog thinned and the lights of the carnival beyond became visible once more. Hayes gently lifted the boy down from the horse, feeling the solid earth beneath their feet for the first time in what felt like hours. Tommy looked around, wide-eyed. "It's real. It's all real," he whispered, glancing at the now stationary carousel. "The stories, the songs, everything." Hayes nodded, smiling reassuringly. "It is real, Tommy. And now, you have a story of your own. One you'll never forget, and one that will remind you to be brave and observant in everything you do." NNTHE carnival workers emerged from behind their tents, appearing relaxed but with knowing expressions. Conrad Vance stepped forward, placing a hand on Hayes' shoulder. "You've done well, detective. The boy is safe, and the carousel's heart is understood. But remember, the ride watches, and it remembers. Its lessons continue with every rider who approaches with respect." And Hayes thanked Vance and the carnival workers. As they walked away, he glanced back at the carousel. Its painted horses gleamed softly, brass poles glinting under the carnival lights. Though motionless now, Hayes could feel the latent energy, the heartbeat of a ride that had endured generations, testing courage, rewarding insight, and guarding secrets. Now as Hayes guided Tommy toward the waiting town square, a faint melody floated through the air. The music box, though unwound. A single shadow moved along the platform, one last watcher remaining. Hayes knew that the carousel story was not over. It had chosen new riders, new lessons to impart, and new mysteries to guard. NBUT, for now, Tommy was safe, the town's story intact, and the Midnight Carousel's heart preserved, waiting patiently for the next seeker. Detective Hayes and Tommy return to the town of Greystone, ready to reveal the truth behind the midnight carousel. The townsfolk will finally understand the story that has been whispered for decades, and Hayes faces the challenge of balancing wonder with reality. NNTHE Town Square was quiet when Detective Leonard Hayes and Tommy Miller stepped from the misty carnival grounds. Street lamps cast warm amber circles on the cobblestones, and the faint scent of caramel and popcorn lingered in the night air. Townsfolk peeked from windows, curious but cautious. Most had heard the rumors. None had dared to enter the carnival after dark. And Hayes adjusted his fedora, holding Tommy's hand. "Let's explain everything," he said softly. "The boy is safe, the carousel's secrets have been respected, and it's time the town knows what really happened." A small crowd gathered, including parents who had feared the worst, and older townspeople who remembered past tales of missing children and whispers about the midnight ride. Murmurs filled the square as Hayes began. "The carousel has always been more than a ride," Hayes said, voice steady, commanding attention. "It's a guardian, a teacher, and a test of courage." Tommy Miller was not in danger. He was chosen to learn, to be guided, and to return safely. "The carousel preserves memory, history, and lessons that benefit our town if approached with respect." Tommy stepped forward, excitement and pride lighting his small face. "It shows you how to be brave," he said, "and how to pay attention. The ride, it's alive, but it's good." NGASPs and murmurs ran through the crowd. Some faces showed disbelief, others wonder. A few older residents nodded knowingly. They remembered tales of the carousel from their own childhoods. And Hayes continued, explaining the medallion, the glowing symbols, and the carousel's mysterious power to test riders. He spoke carefully, emphasizing respect, courage, and understanding rather than magic or danger. He wanted the town to appreciate the lessons without fear. And Conrad Vance and the carnival workers emerged, standing quietly at the edge of the square. Vance smiled faintly. "Detective Hayes has guided you to the truth responsibly. The carousel's heart has been honored, and its lessons preserved for those who seek them wisely." Hayes gestured toward the carousel, now still, the painted horses glinting softly in the lamplight. "This carousel has shaped generations, taught children to be brave, and preserved the memory of those who have ridden before. From now on, it will be a source of learning and wonder, not fear." Parents hugged their children, some still wide-eyed with disbelief, while others laughed softly at the thought of the carousel as a living guardian. The town's anxiety slowly shifted into admiration, realizing the midnight ride had always been part of their shared history. And as the crowd dispersed, Hayes glanced back at the carousel. In the shadows of the platform, he saw a faint figure, the watcher, silent and vigilant. The melody of the music box played softly, almost like a whisper, and Hayes understood. The carousel's guardians remained, watching over the town and preparing for the next seeker. Though the immediate mystery was resolved, the midnight carousel's deeper secrets and lessons would continue, quietly guiding those who dared to ride its spinning heart. Detective Hayes reflects on the midnight carousel's enduring lessons. "The boy is safe, the town is enlightened, and the ride's secrets are preserved. But its story will continue to unfold for future generations." NNTHE first light of dawn crept over Greystone, casting a gentle glow on the quiet town square. Detective Leonard Hayes walked slowly beside Tommy Miller, who was still wide-eyed from the night's extraordinary events. The carousel, now still and silent, stood as a sentinel at the edge of the carnival grounds, bathed in the soft morning light. Hayes took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what had transpired. The midnight carousel had tested courage, patience, and insight. It had guided Tommy through a labyrinth of memory and challenge, teaching lessons the boy would carry for the rest of his life. But it had also reminded Hayes and the town that some mysteries endure, preserved not by secrecy alone, but by respect, understanding, and responsibility. And Tommy looked up at Hayes. "Will it choose me again someday?" he asked, his voice a mixture of wonder and hope. And Hayes smiled, ruffling the boy's damp hair. "Perhaps, Tommy, but only if you continue to be brave, kind, and observant. The carousel doesn't act randomly. It watches, it remembers, and it chooses those who are ready for its lessons." NNTHE townsfolk had begun to emerge from their homes, now curious and eager to see the carousel in daylight. Murmurs of admiration and cautious respect filled the air. Hayes realized that the ride's presence had become part of Greystone's collective story, a symbol of courage, mystery, and the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. Conrad Vance approached quietly, tipping his hat. "The carousel has found a worthy guardian in you, Detective Hayes. The lessons of tonight will endure because you respected its heart and guided the boy safely. Its legacy is now in your hands as much as anyone else's." Hayes nodded solemnly, understanding the trust placed upon him. "I'll ensure the town appreciates it for what it is, a teacher, not a danger. Its story will be shared carefully, and its lessons preserved." As the morning breeze ruffled the painted horses' manes, Hayes glanced at the shadows along the carousel's edge. The watcher remained, silent and vigilant, a reminder that the ride's guardianship was ongoing. Even now, long after the carousel's spinning ceased, it continued to observe, ready to guide future seekers. Tommy tugged on Hayes' sleeve. "Detective, thank you." "I'm glad you came." Hayes smiled warmly. "And I'm glad you trusted the ride, Tommy. You've learned more than you realize, and so has the town. Remember this night, and the lessons it brought." NTHE boy ran toward the waiting townsfolk, eager to share the wonder he had experienced. Hayes watched him go, heart lightened by the knowledge that the Midnight Carousel's story would endure, its mysteries preserved and respected. As Hayes walked away from the carnival grounds, the medallion in his pocket pulsed faintly, warm against his hand. He knew that the carousel's legacy would continue, whispering lessons to the brave, guiding the curious, and keeping the memories of its riders alive for generations to come. The town of Greystone had witnessed something extraordinary, and its story would live on, quietly spinning its lessons for those ready to understand. An NTHE sun rose higher, illuminating the carousel in a golden glow. Its music box played softly, though no one wounded, as if the ride itself were alive, celebrating the night's journey. Hayes tipped his hat and walked on, knowing the Midnight Carousel had shared its heart and its secrets with those who deserved them.